know that we've got, let me just put the comments on before we get going so I can see what people are saying. Yeah, good evening. I'm over in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. Very much looking forward to this one. We've got a big month of sport ahead of us. And there's the comments. Well, not to worry about those. There they are. Right then, so good evening. Got plenty to get through. This is my second ever live stream, so I'm a little bit nervous than the first, which was just over a month ago now, or just 3 weeks ago. A lot to get through. I do think that May might possibly be the best sporting month of the year. All right, and hopefully in a few minutes you'll find out why. So for those of you that are joining me for the first time, what I endeavour to do is to create the sporting month and tell you all about it in just a few short minutes. We'll briefly go over some of the news, some of the top points that have just recently happened, and we'll also take a good look forward to the next month, which, as I have already said, is May. I don't particularly pick on any sports. There's about 8,000 sports in the world. I don't know if you knew that. I'm full of this sort of stuff. About 8,000 sports. There's certainly a good few mentioned today. So let's get started on some news. A sport I hold very dear to my heart is squash, and the British Open took place recently. It was the premier sporting squash event of the year. It's now probably the second most important influential sports event of the year. The Australian, the Kiwi, Paul Cole there was the male champion, and the Egyptian, Hania Al-Hamami, was the female champion. She's number 3 in the world, and as I said, Paul Cole is the world number 1 there. Overtaken recently a lot of the Egyptians. So great sport, go and play it if you haven't played it, but be careful of your knees and backs and ankles, because you two, I'm looking at you, Paul and Hania, you have a lot of pain to come in the future. But that's not what we're talking about now. Moving on. This was quite significant. We had an Eritrean who became the first African to win a one-day classic. He won the Ghent Wevelgem, which is a one-day classic. His name's Binian Girmay. And as I say, the first African ever to win a one-day classic. That's significant. There was a long time ago, I was thinking about this story earlier, but can't remember all the details. I actually signed up to VSO, the voluntary service overseas, to work in Eritrea. Probably my family don't even know this. To work in Eritrea and to develop a mountain bike team. But for several reasons, that didn't come off, and I'm now in the UAE presenting these live streams. So congratulations there, Biniam, for being the first African winner of a one-day classic in cycling. We've now got Olympic champions, black athletes winning swimming events, which was previously thought impossible, but I know a lot about that, and we'll talk about that in future live streams. Moving on, we had the Football World Cup, and for any of you that follow my YouTube channel, which I suggest you do, you'll know my thoughts on the Football World Cup. I'm not looking forward at all to the group stages, the Bore Fest, that are the group stages. I've got a little cat walking around here, so don't be surprised if Leon joins us. He would be the star of the show and an internet sensation. So we've got the Football World Cup, all done and dusted really. It's happening in Qatar in just a few short months' time. I'm looking forward to going there. I've already got my press pass apparently, which, as I say, I'm really looking forward to. But not the group stages. We've still got Scotland, Wales, Ukraine. We've still got a few left to decide. But my football tournament would be a complete knockout. 211 federations, all going to Qatar, all in a straight knockout competition. Winners go through to the next round, losers go home. So watch the film on YouTube and you'll see an example of a real World Cup draw where every single team gets to play in the finals. Arsene Wenger, hashtag Arsene Wenger, at Arsene Wenger, just so YouTube picks it up. Have a look and see what you think. All right, you can take the credit. Tennis has recently been clamping down on code violations. This is more to do with racket abuse and umpire abuse and judges abuse. There's quite a few at it now, I'm afraid. This is Kyrgios here, that would be racket abuse. But if I mention Williams, if I mention Djokovic, if I mention Zverev, they are all being very, very naughty, and tennis is not a sport known for that. I could condone certain behaviour, just say for instance if there were boxers, but not tennis. So tennis authorities, I do urge you to be a little bit more rigorous in enforcing of the rules. I do know that Djokovic was disqualified recently, and that is the only way that you're going to prevent this. To give Kyrgios a $30,000 fine or whatever it was, really, it makes no difference. I mean, Djokovic has won over $100 million in prize money alone. So I really don't understand the logic of fining somebody $20,000 or their match fee. So I'm pleased to say tennis has announced it's clamping down on co-violations. Good, well done tennis. Some bad news, I'm afraid. Rest in peace. Dwayne Haskins, who's the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, unfortunately was knocked over and killed just recently. He was hit by a dump truck. Siobhan Cadogan, who's a Scottish Rugby Union player, and she died very recently. There is no cause of death there. I'm just hoping it's natural causes, as ever with everybody. There is no good way to go, but there's certainly some bad ways to go. Tom Smith, another Scottish Rugby Union player. He actually played for Scotland, represented Scotland and also the British and Irish Lions, and was on a winning tour of Lions Tour down in South Africa, I think it was. So I do remember Tom Smith. He was playing at the sort of time I was playing rugby union, so he would be just a little bit younger than me. So I know in 2019 he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, so I only assume that that's contributed to his death, unfortunately. And Freddie Rincon, the famous ex-Colombian football captain who's got all sorts of world records for a number of appearances in World Cup, he died as well just a few days ago. So rest in peace, everybody, and thank you for your contribution to sport and all those sort of things. Now we've gone off that page, if you were to just have a quick look there, I'll go back once. Dwayne Haskins played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. An interesting fact about Pittsburgh is that all the teams, like the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Steelers, all the Pittsburgh teams, they all play in the same colours, and it's gold and it's gold and black. All the teams in the city. So the performance of the month, I could talk about numerous different performances, really. I could talk a whole show about performances, but I'm going to cut straight to the chase because we have a lot to talk about. And this month's performance of the month goes to Scotty Scheffler, who won the Masters. He got the coveted green jacket, only finished last week. He beat Rory McIlroy into second. An extraordinary 4 rounds of golf he had, and he's well deserved of the title of performance of the month. Well done, Scotty. The choker of the month, once again, I could really go through. There could be a whole 30-minute show or 20-minute show or 2-hour show talking about the choker of the month. I could include myself in this. But the chokers of the month, due to their performance yesterday, and I don't say this lightly, I really do like the football Manchester City play. I will go and watch them at any opportunity I can. But yesterday's first half performance was wholly unacceptable. The game was done and dusted. I don't care that it finished 3-2. Psychological edge completely given to Liverpool. Liverpool beat them 3-2, in case you didn't know, in the FA Cup semi-final. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show in just a few minutes. So, whatever the reasons, I know you had a tough match at Atletico Madrid only a few days ago. I understand all the situation, but there is no way that can be an acceptable performance. You boys didn't turn up. That's the problem. Right then, as I said, lots to talk about. Normally I drop back into this calendar, but I'm going to go right through straight away. So the first one, the conference semi-finals in the NBA. Let's cross the Atlantic over to the USA. In numerous locations they are, because at the moment there's still 16 teams left in the competition. On May the 2nd, we get into the conference semi-finals. So we go over to the other side of the Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean, of course, is named after the Atlas Mountains in North Africa, which the sailors would look for when travelling back to Europe. Completely irrelevant to sport. Right then, the conference semi-finals. So you've got the East and the West, and it's effectively the last 8. You are looking at the last 16 here. I would say the usual suspects, but LeBron James and LA are not in it. They didn't make the playoffs. So on the 2nd of May, we have effectively the last 8. And then on the 17th to the 18th, we have the conference finals. So again, this is still East and West. And then when we get the champions, they will come together for a 7-game series to find out the NBA champions of the year. So good luck to all you teams. I will be following it. Basketball is definitely a sport I really do enjoy and once again hold very dear to my heart. Excuse me. British Masters European Golf. Now this is actually in the Belfry. So those of you that are very good with your accents will realise that I spent about 30 years, did I spend 30 years? Where's the time gone? In Birmingham. And one of the reasons I had an MRI scan on my ankle only a couple of days ago is because my knees and ankles and back and shoulder and elbows are completely shot to bits. I used to run from Harborne, for those that know it, all the way to Sutton Coldfield, which is very close to the Belfry. I used to run there every single day to work at a leisure centre. That's a marathon a day. Oh dear. Anyway, the British Masters, the European Golf, so this is the DP Tour, it's the European Golf competition. Last year it was won by Richard Bland. This year, Rory McIlroy only last week came second in the Masters over in the USA. He must be favourite to win the Betfred British Masters. It's hosted this year by Danny Willett, as it was last year. And for those of you who don't know, when you see a competition that's hosted by somebody, that player, it's kind of an honorary role, and that player decides where the championship will take place. And also, just say for instance, Danny Willett has chosen Prostate Cancer UK as the chosen charity associated with the Betfred British Masters. So really looking forward to that one at the Belfry. It was there last year. Richard Bland was last year's winner, and looking forward to that. Miami Grand Prix over in Miami, back over stateside, May the 6th. It's the first time the Grand Prix is on the Formula One calendar, so there's no previous. We can't talk about who won last year's. However, can we see past Leclerc? If you've got any comments, don't be afraid. I'm looking at the comments section. If you've got any comments, ask me a question, or say if you think Leclerc is going to win, or tell me no chance. Just say, for instance, Mercedes have brought a couple of upgrades and you think they're going to be back on the pace. And I will probably call you foolish for saying things like that. Yeah, I can't see past another Leclerc win or Verstappen, but we'll wait and find out. Miami Grand Prix, new circuit, looking forward to that. On the 7th, we've got the Kentucky Derby and also the start of the Giro d'Italia. So starting off with the Kentucky Derby, this is in Louisville, Kentucky. It's at Churchill's Downs. It's one of the big horse races of the year. It's a 1 1/4 mile race, which is 10 furlongs to you purists of the sport. A furlong is 1/8 of a mile. It's an old unit of measurement, and that's where the cricket crease comes from, because there are 10 chains to... Oh, it all gets very complicated, but don't worry about that. The Kentucky Derby, it's described as sport's most exciting 2 minutes. It's a mad sprint from start to finish. They don't hold back. So this is last year's winner. Well, in actual fact, there was a bit of controversy last year. The first over the line was Medina Spirit, which is the horse on the right-hand side, number 8 there. That horse was first over the line, but was subsequently disqualified for a doping violation. Oh, I've got a question here. I'll come back to that one. It's about Red Bull reliability issues and look to retain their title. I don't know which title that would be they were retaining. So it's from a Mrs. Parry. It's been some years since Red Bull won a championship, so they won't be retaining anything. Mercedes. Let me know some more. Rephrase that one. Thanks very much anyway. I'm under pressure. Right, Mandaloun. So this horse was promoted into first place, and some really bad news, and I talked about rest in pieces, but both the horses that you're looking at now are both dead. They both subsequently died in training, obviously in preparation for this year's race. So a few months ago, both of them died. And I can only imagine. There are some shocking statistics. I would suggest, if you can come back in another life, and I'm being honest here, I would suggest you do not come back as a thoroughbred racehorse. The life expectancy is very, very short, and those actual horses that make it to the racetrack, it's unbelievably bad. I'll find out exactly what it is, and I certainly didn't mean to talk about this now, but I find my mind goes off onto a tangent often. So yeah, don't be a thoroughbred if you come back in a different life. Let's move on. The Giro d'Italia, great sport. So the first of the big Grand Tours. It's a cycle race. It starts on May the 7th. It's about 22 days. There's a couple of rest days in it. They have 2 days off. It starts in Hungary this year, and there are 2 stages in Hungary. They always have a prologue time trial. Should have some water now. And then they transfer, obviously by plane, down to southern Italy and race their way up through Italy. Last year's winner, riding for a British team Ineos, which was Team Sky, which historically in the last 10 years or so have been the most successful team in the Tour de France. Egan Bernal, a Colombian, he had a crash a few months ago, a very bad crash, and sustained life-threatening injuries. However, he's back on his bike now, and whether he rides this year's Giro d'Italia, I don't know. I looked at the start sheet earlier. What I will say is all the teams are preparing for the biggest race of the year, the Tour de France, and so sort of working back from there. We don't really know exactly who's going to be leading teams, so nearly impossible to decide who's going to be the Giro d'Italia winner. And the final Grand Tour of the year, of course, is the Vuelta a España. So good luck, Egan Bernal, with your recovery, and very much looking forward to the Giro d'Italia as it unfolds over the next 3 weeks, well, in May. You swimmers, we got the World Championships on the 13th to the 29th. I have to be very careful. I've made a mistake of this a couple of times to pronounce it. I'll let you all say that word there, Fukuoka. I'll let you all say that, and you can all giggle at yourselves. So it's been hosted in Japan, but as you can see there, it has only recently, in the last couple of weeks, been rescheduled now from the 14th to the 30th of July due to the Omicron COVID variants. So yeah, here's an interesting fact. Is it faster to swim on the surface of the water or underneath the water? So is it faster to swim on the surface or underneath? I've got Struan Scott Woodhouse, who's saying science as an outside bet, and I'm assuming that's to do with the Formula 1. So yeah, I see that one. Good chance. Yeah, there is a little Formula 1 car there. Thank you, Struan, for that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him on the podium. Interesting fact why it's called a podium. A podium, obviously, the Latin for foot is pod. Podiatry is the study of feet and things like that, and the podium is about a foot high. You step onto it, so that's why it's called a podium. So I'll let you answer now in the comments whether you think it's faster to swim on the surface or under the water, and I'll look at your answers in a second. So cancelled, rescheduled World Championships. Moving on, May the 14th, FA Cup final, Wembley. Oh, fantastic, thank you. I've just been brought a lovely glass of water, which is actually not a bad idea. Excuse me. So, the English FA Cup final. We saw yesterday Liverpool beat Manchester City in the first of the semi-finals. Right now, Crystal Palace and Chelsea are probably on the hallowed turf of Wembley, warming up for the second semi-final. So I'm looking forward to seeing that result. If you had to ask me who it's going to be, I've got an underneath here, underneath the water. Let me just scroll up, see a few more. I've got underneath the water there. I'll come back and tell you all the answer there. I'm going to say Chelsea. I just think they've got too much big game experience. I know they're out of the Champions League, but they did quite well to nearly overturn Real Madrid last week in the Champions League. Chelsea to win that one. Well done, Crystal Palace. What a cup run. We've got the Bundesliga finishing on the 14th. Cut straight to the chase there. Bundesliga, FC Bayern Munich, Football Club Bayern Munich are champions elect, no doubt about it. They're 9 points clear. In actual fact, they're 6 points clear because Dortmund won last night. So Dortmund will have played 30 games. Now there's only 18 teams in the Bundesliga, so they only play 34 matches in that league. So there's effectively 9 points between the top two. Bayern over the line. Well done. May the 16th, we've got the USPGA Championship, and also we've got the start of the Grand Slam season. Sorry, the Grand Slam, which is the Roland Garros. Of course, the Australian Open has already started. As I said, it's a great sporting month, isn't it? Great sporting month. Let's look at the USPGA. It's been played in Oklahoma, Southern Hills Country Club. A beautiful venue, absolutely beautiful venue. Last year's winner was the notorious Phil Mickelson. And whether he is back to defend his title, whether the golfing world has forgiven him for the comments he made about the proposed Saudi tour, we don't know yet. His name is on the start sheet, but whether he actually goes to defend the title, well, I'll be interested to find out. We've got the French Open, Roland Garros, starting on the 16th of May. That's in Paris. As I said, the second Grand Slam of the year. Roland Garros was actually a French aviator. He was the first person to fly over the Mediterranean. and also Mediterranean means sea at the centre of the world, which once again is completely irrelevant but quite interesting when you look back at the etymology of it. Last year's winner, Novak Djokovic, and also Barbara Krejcikova. Excuse me, Barbara, apologies. Who will win it this year? In the female draw, it's virtually impossible to say. I won't say it's a lottery, of course, but there's 1 or 10 ladies can win this. Don't forget, Barty retired last year. She would have been up there. Really, I wouldn't be surprised at virtually any name on that trophy. As for the men's draw, I could definitely see, we've got 2 people saying it's fastest from under the surface, 3 people saying it's under the surface. Don't text me on my WhatsApp. Thank you for that anyway, but it beeps. So the men's draw we were talking about, well done Jessica Parry, Gareth Parry as well, husband and wife team there. And they both said beneath the surface. Well done. I'll tell you why in a second. Novak Djokovic, is he going to win the French Open? We've got the King of Clay, Rafa Nadal, there as well. Rafa Nadal recently up to 21 Grand Slams, the greatest of all time as it currently stands. Until everybody retires, we will not be able to say definitively. Who do I think will win Roland Garros? Bill, I know, thinks it's going to be Rafa. I'm going to say Novak. I still think he's playing great tennis. I think I'm going to be a bit controversial. I think Rafa Nadal only won Australia because Novak wasn't there for the obvious reasons why he wasn't there, but he wasn't there nonetheless, and so that's the reason Rafa won. We'll find out. I can't wait for the Grand Slam French Open. We've got the first of the big football finals coming up, and this is the Europa League final at the Ramon Sanchez Stadium down in Seville. Seville is an absolutely beautiful part of the world. It seems more like a travel show now, but I would urge you, if you wanted to go anywhere nice, go down to Andalusia, down to Seville. It's beautiful, and if you were there on May the 18th, you could also take in the Europa League Cup final. And there are 4 teams left in this tournament. Plenty of British interest. We've got West Ham, the London team, who have got a home and away match to qualify for the final against Frankfurt, as have RB Leipzig, Red Bull Leipzig. They're not allowed to have Red Bull in the title, so they put RB, which seems a bit pointless. And also Rangers. Last fact, I promise you. Well, maybe not. If the team has got Rangers or Wanderers or Rovers in its title, it's because those football teams didn't have football grounds originally, and so they had to go around looking for places to play football. I know that Bolton Wanderers had to go to 19 different stadiums, played in 19 different stadiums until they found their own home of football. So will we see an all-British affair? Will we see the Scottish Rangers? I've got my ex-student there, Joe Aribo, who's from Staines Town. He's now playing at Glasgow Rangers, so really good. I want them to win. Also, I did my German exchange in Frankfurt, so I know Frankfurt well. I've got friends there. However, I'm going to go West Ham Rangers final. I think that would be fantastic. Good luck for all those teams there. Europa League Cup final. You've got the European Taekwondo Championships. The reason I say this is because there's so much British interest, and there is qualifying for Paris 2024 here. So we'll see all the usual suspects. We'll see Mutalo Mohammed, we'll see Jay Jones, we'll see all the British names, all the names that we've come to sort of associated with Taekwondo over the years. They'll all be there trying to qualify for Paris. I've got my own thoughts on Taekwondo as a sport, as an Olympic sport. We had a big Taekwondo championships here in where I live in the UAE, and I've got my thoughts. I'll put that in next month's film. But European Championships happening May the 19th next month. Spanish Grand Prix, May the 20th. It's a hotbed of sport. This is in Barcelona, one of the existing well-established tracks on the calendar. It's used for testing. The drivers know it inside out. Last year was won by Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton from pole position ahead of Max Verstappen, and also then Valtteri Bottas was third, making up the podium. We've got Abdullah saying on the surface. Abdullah, I'll give you 30 seconds to change your answer to underneath, and then you will be in the group of people that have got the answer right. Good to see you, brother. So we've got the Spanish Grand Prix. Who will win it this year? I'm just going to have to say every I think I'm going to have to say this all season long, Leclerc, but I'm sure Struan may well say Sainz. But let's have a look. Verstappen's going to have something to say, surely. And if Mercedes haven't got things sorted by then, we can kiss goodbye this year to Mercedes defending their title. Lewis Hamilton, that is. Right then, May the 21st, we've got the League One playoff final, and also we've got the finish of League One. League One playoff final is at Wembley Stadium. There's 4 top tiers of English football. We have the Premier League, the Championship, League One and League Two. My team, Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, are in League One. They're in the relegation zone. I'm afraid to say I think this year you're going to be relegated, but let's come back strong next year. There are 2 automatically, now there's 24 teams in the Leagues 2, Leagues 1 and the Championship. So they play 46 games in a season, a lot of games to play. And so there's 5 or 6 games left depending on who you are. 2 automatically promoted and then 1 through the playoffs. One of about 7 or 8 teams. There's plenty of teams there whose chairman will be saying, come on, let's have a big push there. If you do look though, Sunderland seem to be the team with the momentum. So I'm going to say Sunderland there. And I lived in Sunderland a year. But that doesn't mean to say I support them. I went down to the old Roker Park, the Roker Roar. Not many people will know about that, but it's a very noisy stadium. Now they play at the Stadium of Light, in the new stadium. And that's not the one in Lisbon, in Portugal. Moving on. League One finishes on the 21st. Is it done and dusted? Well, yes, of course it is. I don't even think Pochettino, I don't think he can mess this one up. But Paris Saint-Germain, there's 20 leagues, 38 games in this season, and they're 12 points clear of the second place team. Paris Saint-Germain are going to be League 1 Champions League 1. On the 22nd, this will be the Sunday, the Premier League, La Liga and Serie A all finish off. Is the Premier League, let's have a look now, I've got a few more coming through. Is the Premier League done and dusted? Sunderland to be the future chokers of the month. Oh, hoi, hoi, hoi. I know somebody who I will go to work with tomorrow who lives or lived in Sunderland, so I'll speak to him about that. Paul, if you're watching, somebody has just said Sunderland will be chokers of the month. Right then, as we know, Manchester City 1 point clear of Liverpool, who psychologically must be unbeatable at the moment. Chelsea, I don't think can overcome them. I think the interesting part of this league is the fact that Tottenham, Manchester United, Arsenal, not so much West Ham, but Tottenham, Manchester United and Arsenal are all trying their best not to come fourth. So I have no idea what is going on in those camps. Sort yourselves out and everything to play for. Yeah, I still think Manchester City, I don't see them losing in the run-in. We've got Real Madrid in La Liga, the Spanish first top-dip flight. Real Madrid 12 points clear. Barcelona have had an extraordinary second half of the season. The damage was done in the first half. Certainly in the second half they've been without a doubt the best team. However, well, certainly had the best results. I don't see anyone going past Real Madrid this year for La Liga champions. Serie A is a lot tighter. We've got a couple of Milan teams there, AC Milan and Inter Milan, both very, very close there. But Napoli won't be thinking, hang on a sec, they're on 66 points. They'll be thinking there's plenty to play for. Is there too much for Juve to do? I probably think so. There's some great teams there, aren't there? Fiorentina, Lazio, Atalanta. Anyone that says the Italian league is not very strong are in cloud cuckoo land. Right then, May the 27th, we're coming to the end of this presentation now. Remember, this is just an overview of what's going on, and it gives you an opportunity. Vinny is talking about on the surface. Yeah, let me tell you now. So if you're a swimmer, there were some Olympic champions that won a gold medal in the Olympics. They dived in, they swam completely underneath the water until the end of the race. And sometimes they even turned round underwater and came back. And they were given the Olympic gold medal. It's actually quicker to swim under the water, and the reason being you've got to break the surface, there's waves, you create lots of friction, so it's actually quicker to swim underwater. And so what the swimming authorities did was they made a maximum of 15 metres you can actually swim submerged. So those of you that said swimming underwater, congratulations. Those that didn't, there's no disgrace not knowing that answer. So, May the 27th, we've got the first of the big rugby union finals. This is the Challenge Cup. It's at the Stade Vélodrome, Marseille. Now, I've been to quite a few countries. I think I worked out maybe 61 countries, all the Caribbean countries, all the European countries, all those sort of things. USA, Canada, obviously the Middle East and things. I've been to 61 countries, and I actually lived near Toulon, which is very close to Marseille, and the Stade Vélodrome. I've been there, I think, even cycled in Marseille. Ben and I, if you're on, Ben and I actually cycled through Marseille on the way to Istanbul, 3,700 kilometres. It took us 37 days. We started in Barcelona. We had 2 punches on the way, and that's a great story. Completely irrelevant to this story about European rugby. The Challenge Cup is the second tier of European club rugby, and there are still lots and lots and lots of games going on. Obviously, this is now well over a month away until the final. It is a knockout tournament after the group stages, and last year's winner, Montpellier, they're still in around. All the top teams are there, the Irish teams, the French teams, the English teams. They're all still there in the Challenge Cup, which is the second tier of European club rugby. Monaco Grand Prix on May the 27th. Why it's on the calendar still, I don't know. It's a spectacle. It gives lots and lots of people a chance to drink champagne on the back of boats. Whether it's a great race, well, I can tell you with absolute certainty it's not a great race. Interesting in qualifying nonetheless. Red Bull's Max Verstappen breezed to his maiden Monaco Grand Prix win over Carlos Sainz there at Ferrari and McLaren's Lando Norris. You won't see any overtaking, but it's a nice way to spend a couple of hours thinking what a lovely, lovely place that is. Once again, I lived down on the Côte d'Azur for 2 years, and I've been to Monaco and this area many, many times. Many times. Lovely. The 28th, what am I going to be doing? It looks like I'm going to be sat in front of the television. We've got the Heineken Champions Cup final, we've got the League 2 playoff final and the Champions League final. The Champions Cup is the first European League of rugby union where all the big teams, the winners of the leagues, the winners, they all go through. Once again, many, many teams in there. I'll bring you up to speed with the results of that next month. European League 2 playoff final. 3 automatic promotions. 1 will go through the playoffs. Who that will be, don't know. But they'll get promoted into League 1. Yeah, I'm just looking there. You'd have to say Mansfield Town with their recent league form there. They've won 3, drawn 1, lost 1 in their last 5 games. I'm going to say there, without thinking too much about it, Mansfield Town, welcome to League 1. Sorry, Northampton, Bristol, Newport, and even Salford City. In fact, I take it back. Salford City, what a story. I like the idea of them getting promoted. Roy of the Rovers, maybe they'll go into the Premier League, beat Manchester United. Come on. Come on, Salford. Right then, the UEFA Champions League final at the Stade de France in Paris. We had some great quarter-finals just recently. The semi-finals, Real Madrid against Manchester City, Liverpool against Villarreal. Who will go through to the final? I've got my thoughts. Forza Barça. Abdallah, I love Barça. I've just made a film as well. I'll show you about it. It's a brilliant film. I love the Barça story. I love the Nou Camp. I love their nickname. The nickname of the fans are called the Arses, Cullers. Because when they used to sit in the stadium, in one of the original stadiums, this was back in Les Corts days, and then they went to Camp de l'Industria. I know a lot about Barcelona, believe you me. And the fans would sit on the stadium and their backsides would hang over the edge of the stadium. So if you watch them from behind, you would just see the backsides of all the spectators. And that's why their fans are nicknamed the Arses. Talking about nicknames there, we've got the Yellow Submarines of Villarreal. So they're on the east coast of Spain. They're nicknamed the Yellow Submarines. A lot of people think it's because they play in yellow, but in actual fact that's not the case. They play in yellow because of their nickname. All right. So originally they played in white because they're a Real team, and they used to play in white, and then they changed the shirt to yellow, and then they changed the shorts to yellow. But the fans used to, back in the 1960s, used to like the Beatles, and one of them brought an old tape recorder, an old cassette back down, and they used to play Yellow Submarine, and then the fans started singing the song, and that's the reason they became known as the Yellow Submarines. The Yellow Submarine. So I'm going to say Manchester City and Liverpool, not because I'm biased, because I think they will win. I think they are the two best teams in the world. I said it last month, and I sort of stand by it. So I think the final, Manchester City against Liverpool. Whoosh, looking forward to that. May the 29th, only a couple of things left in this month. Liverpool Champions League winners. They beat Real Madrid in the final. Ooh, a lot of sheikhs here in the UAE will be very upset with that. But to be honest, I would like that final. Liverpool against Real Madrid. In actual fact, there would be some bad blood in that, wouldn't there? Because they met, didn't Ramos injure Salah a couple of years ago? Or let me do some research on that. Or Gareth, do you know about that? I'm sure you're the sort of person that does know that. Remind me, I know there was something in that. Right then, we got the EFL Championship playoff on the 29th. We got IndyCar, Indianapolis 500, and we got the IPL on the 29th. The English Football League, the Championship playoff final, dubbed the richest game in sport, and for good reason. There are the Championship, the second tier of English football. There are 3 teams promoted into the Premier League. 2 automatically, which are going to be probably Fulham. I think you're over the line. More than likely Bournemouth, and then one of any group of 5 or 6 could go into the playoffs. And the reason it's named the most lucrative game in sport is the minimum, as it currently stands, depending on how you look at these figures, it's about £100 million. It's actually more, but about £100 million a year if you come last in the Premier League, from TV rights and broadcast rights and all sorts of different things. About 100 million. If you're relegated, you get 55% of the money that you got when you were relegated next year as a parachute payment. And if you don't get promoted with that massive advantage, the year after that, your parachute payment goes down to 45%. If you still don't get promoted, and the third year, which is the final year of the parachute payments, you get 20%. And that's worth well in excess of £100 million. So that's why it's called the richest game in sport. Let's just wait to see who wins that. As I say, Fulham will get promoted. I'm fairly certain about that. Bournemouth will get promoted. And do we just then see both of those teams get relegated next season? Probably. I hope not. The Indy 500. I love this race. It's everything American. I absolutely love it. It's called the 500 because it's 500 miles, big fast cars, basically pedal to the metal. 500 miles, the track is 2.5 miles round. They average about 200 miles an hour. So it's quite extraordinary. And they also stop, don't forget to change tyres and do certain things. So 500 miles in a couple of hours. Some interesting facts about it. I do know a lot about this. It takes you about 8 hours to get your car out of the car park after the Indy 500. There are no official stats on the size of the stadium. However, there are at least 250,000 seats. And in excess of 300,000 people go to watch it traditionally. This year it's back up to full capacity after COVID. Obviously it's slightly less in the last couple of years. But yeah, 300,000 in excess people watch the Indy 500. Helio Castroneves won last year, a record time, 4th time. There's some greats there, Unser, Rick Mears and AJ Foyt. They've all won it 4 times as well. Really, it's difficult. I know it's difficult to say when I just said this, but Castroneves has won it 4 times. Will he win it a 5th? We'll find out. But there are numerous other teams that are going to have their say in this very exciting race. If you have to do, when I win the lottery and I go around the world talking, I'm just going to follow sports events. And the Indianapolis 500 is on my schedule. It's on my itinerary every single year. It's a great spectacle. Right then, the Indian Premier League. Love a bit of cricket, I do. The Rajasthan Royals are sitting royal at the top of the league at the moment. Although I say it finishes on that date, it's not a cup final. There's no knockouts, and it's just a league. So we'll find out the winners. CSK here, the Chennai Super Kings. This is Vinny's team. We were watching this the other day, and they actually won when we were watching this in a local bar drinking soft drinks. Absolutely no alcohol here. So we watched Chennai Super Kings win their first match, but certainly too little too late. Are the Rajasthan Royals going to continue on, or the Kolkata, or any of these teams here? Great competition. I love it. It's a T20 format, so 20 overs, and what they do is they just put those heavy big bats or lightweight big bats on the board and smack it for 6 every single time. I've just finished only a few days ago uploading a film about cricket, and I love cricket facts now. I love Don Bradman, who in his test career, he had about 90, just under 100 tests, and he averaged over 99 and less than 100 in his test career, which is quite extraordinary, considering the next best on the list is about 60. So he is without doubt the greatest batsman of all time. That statistically is, you can't argue with that. But in his test career of about 100 tests, he only hit 6 sixes. 5 of those were against India and 1 against England, I seem to remember. So Don Bradman. Watch the film, it's on YouTube, it's on my channel. Right then, the last thing, end of the month. Cheese rolling. If you want a bit of fun and you're in the UK, go to a little village called, well, it's a town now, called Brockworth. I've been there. I've been to Cooper's Hill. I've seen this spectacle that is called a sport. A sport has to have a set of rules, has to have a governing body, has to have an athletic element to it. So cheese rolling has all 3 of those. It is a sport. When you go to Brockworth, walk to Cooper's Hill, and you will see this hill, which is quite extraordinary. You won't believe what I say. To walk up it or down it, you'd have to be crazy. Then to race against other athletes, I call them athletes because it is sport, to chase down and win a cheese, some would say is idiotic. But it's great fun, and provided you don't break your neck or fracture a bone, you'll have great fun, and you never know, you might come away with a big cheese, which you get to keep, and that's your prize.